Hello Internet. Today I will be teaching you how to make a food delivery app using Strapi as a backend and Flutter as a mobile app framework. Flutter is a mobile app framework powered by Dart. It can compile apps both for Android and iOS into native code using one code base. Strapi is an open source Node.js backend which can be used for blogs, but it can also be used for anything really. So we will be using Strapi today. Also consider checking us out on DollarBackend.com. We can host Strapi and other open source backends for you. We're opening soon, so definitely check us out and sign up with us. Leave your email. Uh, like, yeah. With that being said, let's get into it. All right, so let's talk how we're gonna use Strapi's API first. Strapi supports both GraphQL and REST API endpoints packaged out of the box in Strapi, so we are going to be using those today. There are different ways to use Strapi's REST API. You can either make requests using an HTTP client like Dio for Dot. Dio is an HTTP client which allows us to make plain HTTP requests, and it deserializes them into Dart's dynamic type. So we could go with dio.post to anywhere, any URL, pass in any data, and it will return us whatever the server returned us. We can also use Strapi's API that is already made, like Dart Strapi. This is an API wrapper for Strapi v4. It is different from Dart because we make Strapi's client, and we could go client.get a single object or client get a collection in Strapi. We'll cover what collections are in a little while. We will be using Dio today because I feel like it would give you a bit more understanding on how Strapi's API works and not a given library, and you could use them. You could use this API both in your app that you're building in Dart, or maybe you're building an app, say, for the web in JavaScript. So we will be talking about Strapi's REST API using Dio, which is an HTTP client. But if you're going to be building this in production, it is probably better for you to use something like Dart Strapi or another wrapper library, because it will prevent you from duplicating the code that they have already written. But today we will be using Dio. By default, Strapi has one content type, which is a user. If we go to Strapi's content type builder, we can see that we only have a user. This isn't very helpful for us. Remember, we're trying to build a restaurant app, and in this tutorial, we're trying to just show the restaurant's menu. So we will have to create our new collection type. If you go and head over to Strapi's documentation, you can see that Strapi has three types of content: collection types, single types, and components. Collection types are content types that can manage several entries. Single types are content types that can only manage one entry. And components are a data structure that can be used in multiple collection types and single types. We will have to create a collection type because a restaurant's menu has multiple items in it. So we will have to create a collection type. To create a new collection type, go to Strapi's dashboard and select Create New Collection Type. Then you would have to give it a display name. We're creating menu items, so let's give it a display name of a menu item. And as you can see, Strapi automatically applied menu item as a singular API ID and as a plural API ID. In Strapi's advanced settings, you could also use draft or publish system. If this setting is set to true, this means that the object that you are creating will first be a draft and will not be returned by the API, but when you're ready to return it, it will be returned by an API and it would be published. We'll leave it true for now. Localization, we're not going to cover it in this tutorial, but maybe we'll cover it in the future. Then Strapi prompts us to choose a field for our collection type. We're making a restaurant app, so we will need to show menu items. Each of the menu items will have a name of a dish, like a salad, an optional photo of a dish, and a price of a dish. For the sake of a tutorial, we're going to make photos optional, but you can make them required, and I'll show you how you can make them required in a little while. But first of all, let's create a name. A name is going to be a text field, and we need to name our text field. This is a dish's name, so I'm just going to type in name. It could be either a short text, like salad, or long text, like this is a salad that contains, like, I don't know, shrimp or something. And then you can have some advanced settings for your field. Advanced settings are just things to validate it. You could use regex. You could provide a default value like dish. Let's make name required. That's enough of a setting for our restaurant's menu item name. So we'll just click on finish. We need to add two more items, photo and price. Let's add a photo item. Photo is going to be of type, let me see. Photo is of type media. It's a single media. We would like only one photo for now for our menu item today, and we'll call it photo. In advanced settings, we could make it required or not, private or not, and we could also select which image types we would like. Since this is a photo, I'm going to select images and click on finish. And finally, the price of a dish. Price is going to be a number, so we'll use number. For the sake of the tutorial, we're going to make it a floating point number. Banking apps usually store those as integers because floating point arithmetics may have roundup errors, but for the sake of the tutorial, our price will be stored as a float. Click on finish, and when you're all done, click on save. Strapi will restart, and then we should see our collection type. Yeah, here we go. So we have a new collection type, and if we go to Content Manager, we can now add items for this collection. So let's add a salad. Create new entry. Name is going to be a salad. Price, I don't know, 3.45 of some units. And let's see, we'll need to upload a picture of a salad. I could just drag and drop it and upload it and finish. For the pictures, you could actually set file name, alternative text, and caption so that you can show them appropriately in your app. You can set them optionally. I'm going to leave them as is and click on save. And now if we click on the menu item, again, we can see that we have our dish in here. But if we were to go to our API, remember we're using the draft system in here, it would say that this is a draft of a salad. So if we want to publish our salad to our app's users, we need to click on publish. Now if we were to go back, it says that this is published. All right, so I have added a few more items to our menu and it is looking good. They're all published. So let's try making an API request. I'm going to be using curl. Curl is an HTTP client for the command line. Curl Strapi's URL /API/menu items. Enter, and it says forbidden. So why is that happening? Strapi by default, Strapi 4 at the very least, requires us to have an API token. An API token uniquely identifies your app. To create a new API token, make sure that you are the admin user. I am. Go to settings, API tokens, create new API token, give it a name. I'm going to give it a name of a Flutter app and a description. Click on save, and here we have our API token. Make sure to copy this token because we won't be able to see it again. But this is our API token, so I'll copy this one. And we need to save it elsewhere because when we click on save and click on back and click on our API token again, it won't show it to us again. So that's that. Not to lose our token, I'm going to create a new file called constants.dot, and const API token is going to be this. And now I have this API token in my app. Quick tip, if you would like to separate your production environment from your staging environment, you could use something like .env or Flutter's .env to load environment variables from Flutter into your app and load this API tokens at runtime. We're not going to cover that, but this is just a tip on how to do it in production. But we're not going to do this. We'll just have a constant. Right, so now let's try making our API request again. I'll just copy that, and now we have something returned to us. Let's see what we have in here. I'm going to be using VS Code's formatter. Okay, so this is our API response. We have our data of our name, our price, created at, updated at, published at, but we don't have a photo, right? Because I have definitely created a photo in here. If I go to Content Manager, look, baked fish, here's a photo, right? So where is the photo? By default, Strapi does not return media fields and foreign relations because it optimizes how Strapi works under the hood. So it's easier for Strapi to return us stuff like name, price, created at, and everything, but not return foreign relations and photographs. For this, we need to use the populate parameter. A populate parameter is a get parameter, and it could be anything. Let's see, populate equals to star. Populate equals to star means populate all foreign relations of an object. So basically, this photo belongs to our menu item directly. Thus, this would be a foreign relation, and if we were to populate it with this parameter of star, we would get a new JSON with photos in it. Let's see. And here is our photo. We would be needing a URL, and we could get a thumbnail URL from here, a small URL from here, and also we could get an original URL from here. A populate parameter could also be a string, such as photo. And if we were to copy this one, we would get the very same exact. If we were to copy that one, paste it here, we would get exactly the same response with photo field included. Populate parameter could not be just a string though. We have already covered that it could be star, which means populate all fields of this object. Populate a given field is singular string, basically populate a field with this name. It could also be an array, such as photo and author, which means populate both photo and author fields. And it could be an object like this. This is a populate parameter. So we would say populate an object of author. Inside of author, there would be another populate parameter of a company. We have an author foreign relation, and this author's foreign relation has another foreign relation called a company. Kind of like that. You can populate both author and company foreign relations in one API request. This is how populate parameter works in Strapi, and that's about that.